Hey guys, welcome to another video for the Poco X3 Pro, and yet again we are talking about Derpfest official. Now the reason we are talking about this right now is because this ROM has now moved from a MIUI vendor to a OSS vendor. 2 to 3 days back, I did go ahead and flash this on my phone, and while I'm traveling, I'm using this as my personal ROM on my personal device. So I thought it would be really interesting for you guys to know with benchmark numbers of Geekbench and CPU throttle test as to how this ROM is performing after moving to OSS vendor along with the changelog. But before we get into all of that, if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the notification bell icon so that you get notified every time I upload a video. In the description of each video, you will find a link to our Telegram community where you can join us and chat with more than 1,000 like-minded people. Last but not the least, if you think the hard work is worth the effort, please click on the join button and support the channel. Now without further ado, hello awesome people, welcome to PhoneOps. My name is Kailash. Let's get going. Alright, so what do we have here? Derpfest official Android 11 updated on the 12th of July 2021. Now the device changelog says initial OSS vendor build, added Xiaomi parts, added dynamic refresh rate support, safety net passes out of the box, upstream Derpfest source with July 2021 security patch. What are the bugs? In order to use torch from quick settings, you have to first open the camera application once. Flash this kernel is fingerprint options don't appear in settings. Okay, I've not had that issue. It does say that the clean flash is mandatory, ships with Mochi kernel, suggested firmware 12.5.2.0 global, SE Linux status is enforcing, ships with G apps, right? So that's everything as far as the changelog is concerned. Now moving on, just like any other ROM review, let's first go to settings over here and then let's go to about phone and then click on Android version 11. Now you do see it does say that it comes with the July security patch, Android version 11. That's the name of the maintainer. The kernel is the Mochi kernel. For all of those who are wondering, as far as I'm aware, Mochi in Hindi, that is the Indian language, like the Indian national language, means cobbler. So I really hope that is what it means. But nonetheless, the kernel has been great. The ROM has been great. I've not had any major issues. You do see that I'm downloading Siberia's for the K20 Pro. But nonetheless, that's not what we are here for. When you boot the ROM for the first time, this is what you're greeted with. A Google Camera Go application is pre-included. To the left, you do have Google Discover, which works like a charm. If you swipe from the top to bottom, you will get access to your notification tiles, in which you do have the screen recorder, right? So if you click on always agree, if you go to settings, you do see that there are a ton of options, and microphone audio, voice and surrounding. So you don't really have an option to record internal and external audio together, right? Now apart from this, if you click on the edit button, you will see that this is Derpfest and it has a ton of customization options when it comes to the notification tiles or the quick tiles as well. You do have beautiful stuff like invert colors, and then you have night light, always on display, don't use that, it will drain your battery, caffeine, CPU info, gaming mode, heads up. So basically almost all the amount of customization you need is available on this particular ROM. Now if you press and hold and if you go to settings and you go to about, you will see that this is the launcher 3 based on Shishu launcher. Heard of that for the first time, right? So if you go to settings, you do have icons, and then you have home screen customization, you do have the app drawer. So the launcher settings is crashing for some reason. I'm not really aware why, but the ROM is pretty solid, pretty smooth, and is working like a charm. Now as mentioned earlier, safety net is passing out of the box, and the DRM is not having a problem as well. That means Widevine L1 is working fine. You do have Amazon Prime HD working absolutely like a boss, and I did use this camera extensively, right? Did use this camera extensively on this particular trip for clicking pictures and stuff, as you can see. Now this does not give you the same result or the same high-end camera experience like the stock MIUI ROM, but it does give you a pretty good experience. So the camera is not a problem, the security is not a problem, and your entertainment needs are covered as well. I did try a couple of games. We will talk about that when we talk about the benchmark numbers, but let's first have a look at the battery and charging info. Now, as far as the charging is concerned, it's not charging right now. But if you keep going down, As you can see over here, the charging speed is pretty insane. It is very close to stock, so I've not really had any problem. Even if you talk about this charging, you do see there are 20 sessions over here, and the screen on time is pretty insane, right? So you do get around 6 to 8 hours of screen on time on this custom ROM, which is pretty neat. Now that's everything about this ROM, but nonetheless, if you go to settings, you do have Derpfest, just like Derpfest, they have Derpfest. So you do have a ton of customization over here, and I really like and appreciate the way they have gone ahead and, you know, set up the customization menu. You do have power button, navigation, gestures, volume rocker, and then you have quick settings, themer, heads up, pulse. Moving on, you have battery options, clock and date, display cutout, network indicators, status bar items. Moving further, you have weather options, general options, and in the last you have general notifications, and you do have miscellaneous. Now if you go to each and every settings, you will see that in the sub settings as well, you do have a ton of customization. Even in gestures, you do have a ton of customization, and in volume rocker as well. Now moving on, if you go to quick settings, you have these many options. As I said in my previous video as well, it doesn't make any sense for me to go ahead and discuss each and every customization option. Moving on, you do have quick settings, in which you have these many options. Themer, you can theme, and the good thing about this particular ROM is it does come with a lot of pre-configured theme. You do have heads up, you do have pulse, so pretty neat there. Moving on, you have battery options, there you go. Then you do have clock and date customization, you have display cutout, network and indicator, status bar items, weather options and general options, and again a lot of customization over here. We can disable or enable the fingerprint authentication vibration as well, right? Now you do have general notifications, in which you can do your customization, and all the remaining things are available in miscellaneous, right? So that was your Derpfest, and as I said, the battery life is pretty insane. The charging speeds on this particular ROM are pretty insane. Now moving on, we will have a look at the benchmark numbers, right? So before that, let's check the jitter, how smooth the UI is. Slowly and steadily we will start including this in each and every ROM review. So if we go to rendering, and if you go to jitter, pay attention over here. Jitter is 0.6 to 0.7 milliseconds. Now I've seen Poco X3 Pro ROMs go as low as 0.45. So the jitter over here is pretty insane. Now let's have a look at the CPU throttle test and the benchmark number. So the CPU throttle test says that the CPU throttled to 88% of its max performance, and the average performance is 167,335. So that's sort of low, and the benchmark numbers also say 740 and 2282. Now there is lip kernel, there are other kernels which has performed better than this, but that doesn't make this kernel or this ROM bad. If you want to try it for daily use in gaming, you can definitely give it a shot. I did play a couple of TDM matches and I was pretty satisfied with it. I did not notice any big frame drops. However, in classic mode, your experience may vary. Let me know in the comment section, what do you think about the initial build of Derpfest for the Poco X3 Pro based on the OSS vendor. Until the next one, this is Kailash signing off at PhoneOps. Keep smiling. Take care. Goodbye.